Hi everyone, welcome to the C&J channel. So this is going to be another video about buying art supplies in Argentina. And the first place I went to was in Microcentro, to one of my favorite art stores in the city called Libreria Catalinas. And I love this place because it's the only place in the entire country where I can buy White Nights watercolors in person. I also love the layout of the store. Everything's really well laid out, easy to find, and so forth. And they also have all the Van Goghs and Winsor & Newton professional colors as well. So, I mean, they have everything I would need. And so I'm always tempted to spend a lot of money here. But this time I went there specifically to get just a few colors to round out my watercolor palette, a few more skin tones, and maybe a few more polychromos depending on how expensive they were at the time. So when I got inside, I asked the girl behind the counter if I could film inside their store, and then she went to ask the owner, and they were like really suspicious, and I felt really awkward. And so the owner was asking me, you'll see him come up to me in a second, like, who am I and what am I doing there? And so I told them I'm an expat from California. I live here now with my husband, and my channel is about being an expat artist living in Argentina with my husband. And once they saw my channel, they relaxed, and they let me film as much as I want, and they helped me find the exact colors I wanted. And the owner even apologized for being suspicious. But I wasn't offended or upset at all, because I can imagine how being a small business owner, especially when the inflation in your country is over 100%, that maybe theft might be a really big concern of yours. So yeah, I can just imagine. So like I said, I love the layout of this store. I love how I can just reach out and get whatever color I need myself, because in the art stores nearest to where I live, you have to go to the counter and have the sales lady pick out everything one by one, and that can get really time consuming or really awkward, because like one time I went there just for one Van Gogh color, and the owner was this really old little lady, and she came back with this huge wooden box that looked really heavy, and I just felt so bad. And then they didn't even have what I needed. She had to bring that heavy box back and get another heavy box. So I just felt so bad, and I much prefer shopping at this place. I also love the neighborhood it's in. It's got a lot of beautiful architecture, a lot of street art, a lot of really nice cafes to sit and sketch in, and other art stores. And also it's close to one of the biggest comic book stores in the city, another place I love to hang out in and check out. So yeah, it's one of the best art stores in the city for sure. So I'll put a link to the store down below in case you're interested. And also, if you're curious about what I got that day, I got Petersburg Ochre and Venice Purple in White Nights, and I also got a polychromos color in Bistre. Not a lot, it was a pretty modest haul, but it was exactly what I needed. The next place I wanted to talk about is Libreria Thesis, another of my favorite art stores, even though I've only been there twice. And the reason for that is because it's always just been more convenient to go to librerias that were closer to my house. For example, right now I live in Buenos, so it's about a 40-minute subte ride just to get there. And the scenes you're seeing right now are on the way there on Scalabrini Ortiz. I was just doing a bit of window shopping because I haven't been in this area in a long time, so it's always interesting to see how places change. Like, this place is new to me. I've never been there before. I would love some of those posters, by the way. And this is along Scalabrini Ortiz. This is in memory of a homeless man who used to live there, a very famous homeless man. I remember taking a photo of him one time. He had a mattress and a television, and so tourists would take photos with him. And then one day he just disappeared. And then there were rumors that he had been disappeared by the police. And then those rumors turned out to be true. They did do away with him. So yeah, that is something that can happen here. But on a lighter note, the first thing I did when I got inside the Libreria was to ask if I could film in there. And they were totally nonchalant about it, unlike Libreria Catalinas. So that was a big relief because I'm still new at this, so it feels awkward still to film inside these places. And I did try narrating while I was there just to see how it would go. And I just felt so awkward, like I was whispering the entire time. So that's why I'm doing the narration now. But anyways, on one side of the store, you have all the school supplies and stationery and the backpacks and stuff like that. And the prices seemed pretty fair. I mean, a few prices seemed overpriced to me, but it can be hard to tell sometimes if something is really overpriced or if the inflation here has pushed this item to that price already. For example, I bought tape just a month ago for 400, and then in this store I found it for 1,010 pesos. So that's Argentina for you. So this is the art supplies section of the store. And I remember the first time I saw this place, it was actually closed and I was just walking by and I was just looking inside and so longing to go in there and look at these things up close. So this place has, I think, one of the best selection of paper, watercolor paper, drawing paper, loose sheet paper that I found anywhere here. And I was really tempted to get more watercolor paper because I still haven't found the one I really love to use. Like right now I'm using Arches, the Arches rough grain paper. And so far that is the best one I've found, but I don't like the rough surface of it. So here they had the Winsor & Newton watercolor paper, but I don't really need more because apparently watercolor paper has an expiration date and you need to use it all up by that date or it'll go bad, which I did not know before. So if not for that, I would have gotten more. But on the other hand, I wanted to save all my money for this Feria del Chocolate that I was going to right after this. And so yeah, I didn't get the paper. Having lived here for so long, I sometimes forget what it was like to buy art supplies in the US. I mean, by US standards, this place is kind of small, but by Argentina standards, it's one of the bigger and better ones. Also, there are just some brands you will not be able to find here unless you're willing to pay a premium to order it from abroad, and then you run the risk of not getting it ever because it might get lost in the mail. So on the one hand, I've learned to live with what is here and not think too much about what I can't get. But on the other hand, I sometimes make lists in my head for when my husband and I will visit the US next. Like we're planning to go there a year from now so that he can meet my family. And I've already got a really long list in my head of the things I want to get. On the other hand, I've learned to live without these things. So do I really need to try that brand I've always been curious about? You know what I mean? But I would love to stock up on pencils when we go back to the US because, I mean, there's a reason why this section is sectioned off. Like you can see there's a barrier right there. It's because everything in there is so expensive. And I have to plan carefully which color do I really need to replace and all that. I mean, I do have more than enough art supplies. I don't mean to make it sound like I don't, because I definitely do, but I'm also the kind of person who loves to have every color and doesn't like to mix very much and loves to experiment. I mean, I don't know too many artists who don't love to do that, so I feel like these are our toys. Like my husband loves to collect electronic gadgets and so forth. I love to collect art supplies, like even more than shoes or clothing. I love art supplies and books. And this place definitely had a lot of new toys I wanted to play with. Like the Inktense paints and all the different kinds of artist markers. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've loved markers, but here they're about 10 US dollars each, so it just doesn't make sense to even start getting into them, but that is on my shopping list. If I ever go back to the US or back to Japan, I want to get a big set of markers and watercolors. Daniel Smith and Roman Small Aquarius watercolors are at the very top of my list. I am just dying to try those watercolors. This place has the biggest selection of canvases I've seen anywhere. Usually I just find the small to medium size, so if I ever want to get back into painting on big canvases, I will definitely go back here. And I went through the school section one more time because I was thinking I would get my stepson some black markers. He's gotten into making comic books recently, so he's always running out of the black markers, but all they had there were what he would call the big boy markers, or things that we already have. Like I already have a lot of these, so there was no point in buying more. And the kids' markers, they only sold them in sets, so I wasn't able to get him anything. Even though a part of me was thinking you can never have too many of any of this. But, you know, I was thinking of the Feria del Chocolate and I needed to save my money. Yeah, I really love the neighborhood that this libreria is in Palermo. I mean, there's beautiful architecture all over the city, but I live now in Boedo, and even though there are beautiful buildings in this barrio, for the most part, I would say it's not so beautiful, and Palermo, on the other hand, is. And I remember I used to walk around there a lot simply to look at the buildings. Like this place, it looks older, more decrepit, and I would imagine it's kind of falling apart inside. I don't know that for sure though, but a lot of these older buildings, unless they're well maintained, are kind of falling apart. Like this building, I have photographed that building time and again, and I just think it's gorgeous. So the next place I wanted to talk about is Teorama, and this is the place I would go to most often when I lived in Palermo. And I still go there a lot because it's right next to the Subte line. So whenever I meet up with friends, I often go there, and it's pretty huge. It's the whole first floor is nothing but art supplies. The bottom floor is stationery and school supplies. The second floor, or as they call it here, the first floor, is the art supplies. So it's really huge, even though it doesn't have everything. Like I would say Libreria Thesis has a better selection of paper for sure, but a lot of other things it's got a really good selection of, by Argentinian standards at least. I mean, in terms of watercolor, the only ones that I've been able to buy individual colors of there have been the Cotmans, and I think they have a few Argentinian brands there as well. But the professional Winsor Newton, Rembrandt, and Van Goghs, I think they only sell in the sets. So in terms of an Argentinian art store, it's great. It has everything that you need. So, I mean, this was my go-to art store for years. Before I got into watercolor, I mean, for drawing, for painting in oil or acrylics, for craft supplies, office supplies, and all that, it's perfect. So this day I didn't get much. I only got that packet of paper I was just holding because I had just come from the Feria del Chocolate and I had gotten a lot of chocolate. And I was planning to go a second day after that, so I had to save my money for a second day of chocolate. And this is the front of the store. You can see it has a lot of really nice things. It has a bit of everything, like I said. But maybe the best thing about this art store is that it's so convenient because it's just right there on the Subte line. So whenever I go anywhere in that area, I always make a stop there because I can go there just before going home. And here's a little haul. This is the package of paper that I bought. It's really good. It's really, really smooth, so it's great for colored pencils. And on a previous trip, I bought all this stuff. I got gold leaf, not real gold leaf, it's like fake gold leaf, and some markers and pencils, and a small block of paper. So thank you so much for checking out this video, and hope to see you next time. Ciao!